Calvin, so you're not coming to bed?
Okay, folks, the ending of the last episode of House of Payne was very telling. Calvin seemingly chose to sleep on the couch as opposed to, let's say, Laura forcing him to after the... I can't even call it an argument when it was completely one-sided. Calvin was attempting to have a conversation explaining the importance and why it's necessary for, her and Miranda to be civil for the sake of co-parenting Christian, and she didn't want to hear it, and she pulled her typical Laura move of raising her voice, getting in the last word, and then storming off, even though it pretty much proved exactly what Calvin, wanted to avoid when he wasn't talking to her. And she's like, can we talk about this? And he's like, every time we talk, it turns to an argument. Well, that's because you never see it from my side of things. And it happened exactly the way Calvin said. He kept it calm. She blew up and stormed out. So he opted to choose peace by... look, I can't... In all my years watching TV and movies, I can't even think of the number of times... Well, count on my hand the number of times I've seen the man of a relationship choose by choice, not being forced to or anything, to choose to sleep on the couch as opposed to sleeping in the same bed as his wife, girlfriend, fiance, or whatever. At that moment, you could tell he was pissed off. Keep in mind, Junior's not there, Christian's not there. It's just those two, him and Laura. And he would rather choose to sleep on the couch than get in bed with her after what went down. Not only that, he faked being asleep when she came out and was calling for him to come to the bed. But when he didn't respond, she just went back. And then he opened his eyes and you could just look at his face like he was done. And I feel like the whole Christian thing and the fact that, Miranda's being shut out, well, at least from the condo, I think, and some fans have said, Calvin is beginning to see Laura in terms of everything his family has been saying is like, man, they were right. She is, pretty awful. And the fact that there's no compromising with her. With Laura, it has to be her way. If memory serves, one of the few times I even remember any sort of semi-reasonable compromise was when she was talking about all the details of how extravagant she wanted their wedding to be. But then Calvin talked to her about how expensive this stuff is. Like, how can we even afford a honeymoon if you're talking about like you and me getting on a plane or something, or getting on a helicopter at the end of the wedding and things like that. It was that one episode where Miranda randomly came in there and wanted more child support, talking about how, yeah, you know what, I seen the announcement in the paper, like, how's it going to look for, Christian's father to have this huge extravagant wedding when his mother can barely afford to make ends meet. And it felt, this was back when Miranda was mainly the annoying one out of the two women. I don't know. It's like they just randomly made this change to make Laura as awful as possible. But I think on some level, by the end of that episode, they did come to a semi-agreement about toning down things to make it more affordable. And that was it. So there, even though Laura would be kind of, out there in terms of her way of thinking, there was a way to have it where Calvin could keep her grounded. But at this point, she's just too far gone. And it has to be her way. And if she constantly storms out of the room, who's to say she won't constantly storm out of the front door for bad bag packed whenever they have an argument? So it just goes to Calvin just sitting there rethinking everything. Now, what I hope doesn't happen is that the ending of this episode isn't just scrap. That the next time we see Calvin and Laura, oh, they're all happy again. It's like, no, I want to see Calvin talking to somebody about this, because given the fact that he's just really pissed off now and upset. But no, he's calm. And that's even worse than being pissed off to some people, because when it's calm, it's like you can tell he's kind of done. And Calvin, there wasn't any of him trying to beg Laura to stay in the room with him or and talk things out or anything. At this point, if Laura had packed up that bag and walked out of the front door, I don't think Calvin would have said anything. I think Calvin would have just sat there, watched TV, and then let her go out without giving her a word or even looking in her general direction. So one has to wonder, if Calvin doesn't react, it will probably set Laura off even more, to the point where she'll just go back to, this is all Miranda's fault, or, this is all the family's fault. So it's like, you turn him against me. So I don't know. This woman tripping. But yeah, I just hope Calvin thinks carefully about his next move, because it's going to be very crucial. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, because I will say this much. If Calvin decides to marry her, he's a bigger fool than I thought. And he better get comfortable on that couch, because he's going to be sleeping there many a nights, depending on how things go with their relationship. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think of Calvin choosing to sleep on that couch? Do you think he's done with Laura? Well, we'll find out hopefully next week. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.